Okay.
Ah, nice. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Right
Um,
on.
just trying to catch up with all the writers.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Everybody's in a different location. Everybody's got a different kind of story going on. So it's been
Oh,
interesting
yeah.
meeting everyone.
Yeah. Alexi for sure. That guy, world traveler, man. but but you'd never know because he's always in contact, and you would never think he's traveling. Sometimes it'll be, oh, I just got a 12-hour bus ride. Like what? You acted like you were, Yeah. So
Yeah,
he's
he just
pretty.
kind of disappears for a while, pops up in another place.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I think he was saying you're pretty mysterious. Like he's never, I don't think he's ever like met you before. Or I think he said something about like the only verification was like some picture you sent him like once or something.
I don't remember that, but
Hmm.
no, we've never really talked on the phone. When I first started with him, he said he did everything by Skype, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then every 99.8% of the time, it's always been through email. So
How did you meet him? How did you like first, come across him?
I don't remember the exact details, but there was a client or a potential client that was was trying to screw both of us at the same time by having us both do work, and then she didn't want to pay either of us, so we both kind of got into an argument with her, and somehow we ended up connecting and talking with each other, both about the experience, but I don't remember exactly how we connected. It was it was a weird situation that happened. Yeah. So
Your
it
plan
was,
backfired, I guess.
well, it was good for me. I would assume he would say the same, but bad for her because yeah, she was trying to pull a fast one on both of us, I believe. And then we both ended up saying, "Hey, what's going on with this girl?" Well, she did this. Oh, she did that to me too. Okay. So what do you? Yeah. So it was just weird circumstances.
uh, wild, wild. Well,
Yeah.
hey, how long have you been working with Alexi?
I think about pretty close to 10 years, maybe around the
Wow,
8 year area. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So it's
How,
been a while.
have you seen it academic composition change much over the 10 years? Has things, the assignments changed, clients,
The-
anything?
They've, I've seen it throughout the industry. They've changed. There's a
Hmm.
lot more. It's, it's kind of goes both ways because now they're more interested in your formatting. Like if you have an APA paper, a lot of the times they don't care about the content, they care about the formatting. And 10 years ago, they wanted you to have good ideas and really, come with some critical thinking. Now it's more, okay, does it look right? And then I'll kind of look at the content later. Now it's not always like that. That's circumstantial, but some of the schools are pushing more format over substance. That's not always the case. There's a lot of really good schools and really good professors still, and if you're in those, you get to share your ideas, and someone's actually going to listen to them. But I've had other ones where they basically go through with a pen and just check, 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 check. And they're more worried if you italicized the name of a journal than if you wrote something great. So
Wow. Why do you think that is? Is it just like easier for them just to checklist to just bang, 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 okay, what do you think the reason is?
well, I'm sure when I was in school at San Diego State, we had a guy that he worked in a government position. I was a PA major, public admin, and then he'd come in for his night class after work, and there were two or three essays in that class, and literally you could put anything in there and he would do that, just check, check, check. So if you wrote, I think it was 4 pages, you got a B. If you wrote 5 pages, you got an A. And on the paper, all it was a check mark next to each paragraph where he just count them, and that was that. So obviously that's easier now. He was an older guy. who worked in a government position was always talking about it, how stressful it was and this and that. So I guess when he got papers, he didn't really want to read them. And so yeah, of course it's easier, but
Wow.
you're you're emphasizing the student to do all this thinking and follow all these requirements, and then you're not reading it at all. Like he blatantly
Yeah.
was not reading it. Now that's rare,
Sheesh.
but the the whole system has kind of moved away from, it used to be encouraging thinking, and I've seen it go toward, well, we want you to think this way, and we want you to tell us why you think this way. And if you reject that, it a lot of the schools are political now. You will be targeted as, being a, they're not going to label you, but in their mind and when they grade you, they're going to think you're you're a different kind of thinker than they want at that school. So
Mhm.
when that happens, the easiest path is to just say, okay, let's focus on requirements and make sure there's 15 sources and make sure your title page is all centered nicely and make sure there's the adequate amount of space between your name and the course and the date. And this way, we're protecting ourselves because we don't want to come out and say, well, this is a bad way of thinking. And the school doesn't want us to label you as being something else because you're paying our salaries with your tuitions that keep going up. So, yeah, it's easier to focus on format. Now, that's not to say that content isn't going to matter because they're still going to skim through it. And if you just completely bail on everything you're supposed to do, they're going to hand it back and say, this is wrong. And here's why. So
Right.
it goes both ways and it's completely circumstantial. I mean, there's still some really good schools out there. There's a lot of really bad schools. There's a lot of pay for degree schools that you just want to get through it and get your degree and move on. And so it just really depends on where you are in the country, where, what your income level is, what kind of school are you paying for. If you're taking out loans, a lot of factors in it is going to
Mhm.
depend on your education. Yeah. There's no straight line approach.
The I guess that example where you submit something and then the teacher's like, what is this? We don't approve of this thinking. Like, have you come across a situation like that? Like a real world example? Are you willing to share, a case where that happened?
Yeah. There has been there have been cases where the student wanted to write about something highly political, like, for example, cops killing, African Americans at a high rate. And if I were to include some, even if I'm taking that position that the student wants, even in the counter argument, if I were to say, here's some data that shows these, these circumstances and this and that, there would be comments in there that almost push back, like, we don't need to hear this part because it doesn't connect with your thesis, even though they want the counter argument up front. So there's been other cases where I've said some things that I didn't think were controversial that the professor grades in and thinks are controversial. There's been some times where the clients come and said, whoa, I can't say this. And it's not anything, racist or homophobic or anything like that. It's just kind of, we don't want to hear this. And that's a big change in school because you really want discussion and they don't want discussion anymore. And if they don't like what you're saying or what they think the student is saying, they're saying, whoa, 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 whoa. We don't want to, we don't want to listen to this. And
Sheesh.
yeah, I I go back to my time in school and one of my poli sci teachers who's still on the news here every now and then, he's a political analyst on the news. He'd just ramble for 50 minutes, just ramble. And he'd throw a few, fucks in there. And everyone thought it was so funny because they're all, 19, 20 year olds. And, oh, the professor said fuck. But even back then, I was thinking, this has nothing to do with anything. And he's still tenured there, which is funny. I won't bring up his name because I don't want any backlash, but I, it's what you make of it, really. And if you're not going to let the student speak without criticizing them. You can criticize their work and say, you could have written this sentence much better. And you can criticize, their content and say, well, there's a lot of data on this, so you should have brought in this data. But when you criticize their thinking as a professor, that's a bad direction to go in. I don't care what they're saying, because in academia, free speech should be everything.
Yeah,
And
that's I was talking to Florian. He was like, that's no reason that he came to this country. He's like, I
yeah,
imagined like being in a room with all these people throwing out ideas and having an open conversation, you know?
right.
Huh.
Yeah. And
Well,
you can
hey,
have some
so
real ideas. You can tell people their ideas are bad and tell them why, but let them speak their ideas, so you can have yours against them.
so how long ago did you go to college?
I graduated in '05.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, do you was it that political back then? Were they trying to restrict your thinking as much back then, or you've just noticed that since then over time? Like,
No, not at all. And I don't know if it was just my school. I California is obviously a very liberal state. We're more of a conservative county, but we had 55,000 students there, so obviously it was a really big school. But I don't remember much of that at all. Honestly, I had a few teachers that would rant about administration and how our school our school was not living up to standards and the teachers are bad. They'd go on rants like that, but nothing overtly political, like trying to shape your ideas, shape your way of thinking. That's more recent. That's probably from about 2010 to 2012 on. I've noticed that.
huh.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now if let's say you were in the position that you were in 2005, would
Right.
you decide to go to college now? Like if you were in that position now?
It's the child. Well, that's kind of two part. Back then, I just wanted to get done. I
Hmm.
I was when I was in school, I was a pretty bad student. I just wanted to get done. I'd skip class to go to bowling, or whatever. The, I feel like I didn't take advantage of it and enjoy the enjoy the time there from an academic perspective, which I could have. I could have, really embraced it. I just didn't want to. I was more about the social aspects, which I think a lot are. That said, I don't think it's a I don't I don't think it's a proper path for a lot of people that are not going to use the degree, because I really never did. I never went into public administration or city governance or anything like that. I barely knew what it was when I was majoring in that. It was just
Wow.
something different than business. But I mean, I minored in business too, but still. But in my case, it was what you did, even though it was, I graduated high school in '01. So it was still what you did, where once you finish high school, you go to the college you got into, or you pick the college you wanted to go to. And that was just routine. Now, with all the online schools and such, I think I think a lot of people should still do it. I think taking the secondary approach is more important, where it's not your top priority, but it's something to have, because there's, like, nursing, for example. In New York, I believe it was in 2017, and I think they're doing this in more states too. It doesn't matter how long you've been a licensed nurse, you have to have a bachelor's degree within 10 years now in New
Hmm.
York. And that started a few years ago. So if you're thinking of becoming a nurse, you don't want to go 5 years, 6 years into the profession and then go, oh shit, I need to get a bachelor's degree like now. Just get it out of the way, because there's so many programs on that you can just do online from your living room, or get help from us, that you knock out that requirement. So for someone that doesn't really know what they want to do and are thinking, well, maybe a business degree sounds good, or maybe communications could help me down the road, I would really think hard about it and think, okay, is this going to be worth my time and effort? for someone in STEM that's got a clear path to electrical engineering or something, or computer science, or a nurse that knows I need a bachelor's degree, so I better get it. Yeah, absolutely. It's the path to go because you have so many choices now, and cost is going to be a factor, but cost is relative to what you're trying to do, you know?
Mhm. Mhm. So you're basically saying, unless you see it like a requirement, specific requirement for your profession in the future, maybe think twice.
If you have a plan, I would say do it. If you have
Mhm.
a plan and you know what you want to do at school, that's why I go back to mine. I just jerked around a lot, and the work was secondary, and the degree is just something to get there. And I never used it. But if I went in with a different plan and a different mentality and said, you know what, I could get a computer science degree and probably earn 150 grand by the time I'm 30. Yeah, go for it. Of course, that requires a different skill, but there's professions where you're gonna need a degree, but you're also gonna need the skill. Like just getting the degree without the skill is gonna get you
Right.
nowhere. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you said that when you went to college, it was basically like a given, like you're just high school straight to college. It was
Yeah.
pretty much the same for me also.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that mentality was instilled? Because it seems like what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like, you should have a plan. If you have a plan, proceed. But it seems like even to this day, most people are just like, college, it's just what I do, right? Why do you think the mentality is?
I think it kind of got grandfathered into the high school because your senior year of high school, I'm sure everything you were doing was someone was telling you, whether it was a counselor or the teachers in your class were telling you how this is going to, help you for college. Now, there's some people in high school that are still they're taking the lowest level of everything, and for them, they're kind of the forgotten people. That think, oh well, the teachers at least think, well, they'll probably work at a gas station and whatnot. And then there's other groups where college is your success story, and the college you get into is talked about all through your senior year in high school. But I think it starts much earlier because there's a lot of kids, I call them kids now because I'm old, but that know by the time they're 15, 16 years old, whether school is going to be for them or not. And if not, that's fine. A lot of them are going to start their careers earlier and get promoted earlier and probably earn more than a lot of the kids that did go to college. But I think it's expected. Culture's different too. Depending on what culture you're in, your parents are going to expect it. How did your brother go to college? Did your sister go to college? Are they doctors? Are they lawyers? They're going to expect you to take that same path.
Right.
Um, it's it's just this kind of thing that hovered there, and it was connected between expectations of the family, expectations of your high school, and then social expectations, where this has always been the path you go. Once, if you're a good student in high school, that's good because that means you get to college, which is good, and then you get into a career, which is good. And then I think more recently, people have found that when you have a school like mine, where 20,000 people graduate and 10,000 of those are all graduating in business administration. Now they're all trying to go apply for the same jobs, and it's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
Whereas we probably had a few hundred students that graduated in engineering, the whole engineering department,
Wow.
and those companies were waiting with open arms. Yeah, yeah. A lot. I used to see guys from high school at parties and stuff when I was younger, and I think the first semester out of the probably 10 I knew that went there, like 7 or 8 of them had already dropped out. And
Hmm.
then one of them, upon graduation, and this was, a while back, so it would be a lot more now, but it was landing 90, 100,000 as an entry level in an engineering field. So, like, it's all relative. If you're that guy and make it work, yeah. If you're going to be the guy that drops out after a semester or two, it's just not for you. But I think what changed is a lot more. students and families normalized it. It's not that prestigious anymore. But once they did that, they found out that the end result is not that good. If you go through 4 years and get your communications degree and then go, okay, what now? There's no
Right.
path. That goes back to setting your path.
Hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. What you said about the in high school, like they're preparing you to go to college. Like it's just, it was the same thing in my school. Like everybody was like, "Oh, I got into this school. I got into this school." So you kind of felt like you got
Yeah.
left behind if you didn't go. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you were taking AP classes, you took, the exams at the end that would give you college credit. But I don't think many people even pass those. But so you had select tiers, and especially senior year, and even before that, for some students, it's all about what are you going to do next in college. And some
Yeah.
people didn't care, and some people cared too much, and then some were like, "Yeah, I'm going to go, and we'll see what happens." So I think that's changing now, though, and I don't know if it's for the better or for the worse because we don't know what these younger generations are going to do when they're done with high school. A lot of them are just going to hang around and do nothing. But
Yeah.
so maybe college is the better option. It's better than nothing for sure.
Yeah. Well, hey, you said that when you were in college that you kind of gravitated towards the social aspect, right? Were
Oh
you
yeah.
did you join like a fraternity or anything? You remember any memorable
Mm,
times?
No, I mean, just and a lot of that goes back to me and Alexi and academic composition is I had a lot of Ethiopian friends and I had been since I was in grade school kind of helping them with their work. And then in college, I'd become introduced to a lot more and they need help with work. So they'd start by, buying me a 12 pack or something. And then at some point it got to where, hey, let me give you some money for this. And then it went on to, okay, well, if they're giving me money for this, I bet I could get money elsewhere for this. And it was advertising and all that. But as far as the social aspect of college, it was just more generalized. We hang out for an hour and just goof around and there's occasional party here and there, go to the casino, have some drinks, whatever it may be. Just more meeting people and enjoying the environment, which is something you lose if you go to a fully online school or if you skip college at all. But it just depends on the person. Some people they don't really want to get in social circles. I'm a hermit myself, so I enjoyed it then. Now I kind of like being alone and with my work and such. So it goes back to being what you make of it. And
Mhm.
our goal is if you decide to go through with it, we're going to be there to help you because it helps us. That's how we
Yeah.
make our
Well,
living.
okay. So you said you went to school in San Diego. Um,
Yeah,
you're still there now? Yeah, you
yeah,
said you're like 15 minutes from TJ or something?
yeah. About 20 minutes.
Okay. What are you doing now? Like, are you just working with Alexi? Do you have any other projects you're working on?
I've worked with him probably going on like 10 years now. I've also done my own thing where even before I worked with him, I was advertising on Craigslist and such and just word of mouth. So I've had a lot of clients that actually became friends. Like they went on to graduate or whatnot. And we still keep in touch and hang out every now and then. I've gone through, loads and loads and loads of programs for people, helping them from starting at community college. And some of them have decided to get their masters and helping them all the way through. So it's been a long term
Wow.
process. Yeah. I've
Wow.
also worked with other companies. I managed another company for a while that went under because their marketing, they just gave up on marketing really. So yeah, I've worked really independently. I've been connected to Alexi for a long time and worked with him. So that's kind of my main, focus. But then I do have side things, but they're really all connected to this. I also do some work for a PR firm where basically interview and write articles about people that are promoting their business or whatnot. But
Mhm.
it's all work on the laptop. Let's put it put it that way. I
Nice.
Yeah, I worked at a parking company when I was younger, still finishing up college, left them, and I've really been doing this or something related to this ever since. So
Nice,
yeah,
nice. Well, you found your niche, I guess. That's good. That's great.
yeah, yeah. And we're hoping it lasts for a little while longer.
Nice. Well, I
Yeah.
feel like people always need writers. People always need somebody to, take an idea and then convey it. Maybe I think it seems like in the future now people are moving towards more media like video and photo, but
Yeah.
you still need that kind of person where like you're able to transmit some kind of message. So
Yeah, people still want their books ghostwritten. People still want their articles written about them and how great they are. I mean,
uh-huh.
pastors and priests still need their sermons written. That's another thing people don't think
Uh-huh.
about. And obviously, political figures get their speeches written somewhere. So there's always, as you said, a niche for writing. Some of it's on the down low, and some of it's not. But we're always looking for something that someone needs written because
Have you
they're
written
out.
the sermons? Have you written a few?
I years and years ago, this friend of the family I knew that was she actually did this for decades before I even started or knew it was a thing. Yeah, we tried to get into it and we had a couple test runs and then her and I kind of fizzled out. Not from anything bad, but she was having some health problems and stuff. But yeah, we did write a couple and she came up with the idea and we advertised about it and we got some responses and it's like anything else, man. People need stuff and they don't know how to go about asking, and if they see an ad or they're gonna pry and say, hey, I want to do this. That's where we get our clients. They just want some help and they don't know there's no store they can go to down the street that says help me with this. So they're trying to find us on Craigslist or Google or whatnot. That's another thing with I've worked for some companies that really, really manipulate the customer, and they have massive, massive amounts of clients and massive amounts of writers. And 10% of their writers are good. The rest are horrible, but they don't care because they're paying dirt cheap rates. And if something goes bad, they'll just take it away from the writer. You know, they'll fine them and say, well, you did this bad, so we're not going to pay you, but we're going to get paid. So with us, there's a very almost boutique like approach where we're connecting with you one on one, whether it's Alexi and me talking or, there's a real circle there of just writers who are going to listen to you, who are going to work for you, and who are going to do it the way you want it. We're not sending it off somewhere.
Right.
And there's a lot of writers in Africa and the Middle East who do this, and more power to them if they have a skill that I don't have because they're writing in a non-native language. But what they end up doing is just, and not all of them, some of them are really good, but a lot of them will find a similar paper. If I want a paper on Boeing aircraft, they're going to find something on Boeing aircraft and they're going to go sentence by sentence and change wording.
Sheesh.
Well, and they're trained to do this because that's how they make money. And when it's like September coming up, they'll send them to offices away from their home for 3 or 4 months on the mainland, and then they'll go back after the busy season. But they're trained to change words, just use the source. And I've hired a couple when I was working in another company, and one person made up 3 identities using the same computer, and just everything's paraphrased. And some of them are great at it. Some of them are really, really good at it. But when you use these companies off Google, that's what you're going to get a lot of the time. And going back to the main point, if your paper's on the Boeing 77 and it asks 4 different questions, what ends up happening is they find a paper on Boeing 77 and they're just going to generalize everything.
That's
Because
wild.
Yeah, because once they get going, they don't stop and go back to the instructions and say, well, wait a minute, I'm supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4. They just go, okay, one. So that's one thing I would want to convey to clients is with us, we're very straightforward. We're never gonna bullshit you and say, hey, we guarantee this grade or you get a refund. No, no company is gonna guarantee a grade. And then when you don't get that grade, give you the refund. They'll find a way to say, well, it was your fault for whatever reason. So that's the biggest red flag. When you see a company that says guaranteed grades or refund, no. We used to make that guarantee at another, not academic composition, but another company I work for. And even then they find a reason to say, well, you ordered it too quickly or you didn't give us this. No one's ever going to do that. And
Yeah.
you want to know who your writers are. And you want to have that ability to connect with them, not just have your order shipped somewhere. So,
well, hey, that's basically the reason why we're doing the interviews, so people kind of get to know who the writers are, who's writing the paper. Yeah.
And
great.
We're not perfect. We have our flaws, but all of us that work together have done this a really long time and have written probably at least 100,000 papers, every 5 years. So we know what we're doing. And if we don't know what we're doing, we're going to say, I don't know how to do this. I just can't do it,
Right.
We'll be honest. Right. We're not going to take the money and say later, oh, well, it was too hard.
Right. All right. So last question. In the email, you said that California is looking kind of wild. You saw like some guy like coming out of a convenience store or something, kind of with like a needle out of his arm. Like what is going on? Like, I guess you've been in California for 10 years, right? So you've seen it change all these 10 years?
I've been here my whole life.
Okay.
Yeah. So where I live on a good street. Like it's mostly retired people and really calm and quiet. If I go 2 blocks down that way, where there's a Walgreens and then there's a gas station, there's at least 10 to 15 people just hanging out there all day, doing whatnot. And every few hours, the cops will come by or the manager will come out and chase them off. But yeah, the other day, and this has happened many times, the guy was just, and it's not funny, it's sad, but was just laying there with a syringe sticking out of his leg and he's bleeding all over the place, and no one seemed to care because it's become so common, And
has that been like the last couple of years? Like, when did this start getting this crazy?
I would say within the past 5 years, it's gradually gotten to the point where it's more normal and you don't even worry about it anymore. I mean, all the people have the Ring cameras and it notifies you if someone posts something. And every morning there's 5 or 6 just random people going on porches and trying to break into cars, catalytic converters, or there's people that steal them by the hundreds every month and then stack them up and show pictures like they're proud of it. It's just become, it's unsafe for one, but it's just unpleasant. And there's a lot of the people I feel bad for because, they're out there on the streets and nowhere to go and no family, no support. But a lot of them are choosing this life and they're coming from other places because they hear that in San Diego and LA, you can kind of be homeless. And I know it's this way in San Francisco, really. And you can be homeless there and be treated well. And I'm not anti-homeless. I used to, volunteer at homeless shelters and such, but there's a right way to go about it. And showing up thinking, well, I'm going to get free drugs and this and just sleep outside of Walgreens is not the way to do it. But crime has just it's been bad and it has changed. I mean, it's not really family safe environments anymore like I grew up in. It's more, if your kids are walking home from school, you want them to run home from school, So people are leaving. I was just on my little neighborhood here. I've seen 5 houses sell just this year, and they're going to North Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, more conservative.
Conservative states.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really on the political spectrum. I'm whatever. I'm right in the middle probably, but that's where they're going, and they're leaving here, and I can see why. I mean, I love California. I want it to be better, but right now it's just on a spiral.
Yeah. What is your plan? How do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself in the next few years?
Um, that's a good question. If everything keeps going up here the way it is, definitely relocate. Just this week, I noticed a couple items I buy at the Walmart market down the street have gone up 50 cents just in 1 week. So if that keeps going, it's just not sustainable. I mean, you don't want to just survive. You want to have a little money to put away, and you can't do it here.
Yeah.
The Everything's so unaffordable. So I don't know. I might be one of those that leaves to a red state. I might look at like Nevada or Arizona, somewhere close, or I might just look at another country. But I don't know. I don't know. I just try to go day by day right now. Hope everything's fine.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I went to school in California, like for college,
Yeah.
and I lived in LA for like 8 years. I was like, the weather's too good. I ain't trying to go back.
Right.
But after coronavirus, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't. I'm paying rent. Like I'm paying so much rent, and I can't even do anything. So,
Well, that's when it all got really crazy, and then California pundits had to look at Florida and say they're all gonna die over there. So you don't want to look over there. They're all gonna die. We're the ones that are gonna survive all this. And then everyone ended up moving to Florida. So yeah, complete overreaction in California. I typically am home most of the time anyway, so it didn't bother me personally as much, but the whole hysteria around it did. I could see why people said, I got to get the hell out of here.
yeah,
Especially because people are just running amok in the streets through all of it and no one seemed to care,
yeah, crazy. Well, hey, a lot of people are moving. Like I know Lexi just relocated, and I left the country like a couple years ago. So
Oh, where'd you go?
I'm in Central America now. So I'm in Costa Rica.
Okay. Oh, see, yeah, that's one spot definitely on the radar.
Yeah.
Good looking
Yeah.
down
Well,
there.
hey, stay in contact. If you need more info, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good. Well, hey, John, thanks for the interview.